We the people. Not me, we. President Trump has never understood the difference. His lies and attacks are making each crisis worse. He's dangerous, out of control. America, we deserve a president who puts us first.
This is a battle for the soul of the United States of America. Winning means uniting America, not sowing more division and anger. There's nothing beyond our capacity if we do it together.
It's time for Joe Biden. Priorities USA Action is responsible for the content of this advertising.
This is a moment for justice seeking, for barrier breaking, for change making.
We can give our children the future they deserve.
This is a movement for her, for them, for you, for us. This election, be a part of the movement. Vote.
The Forum is Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. until 10 a.m. Central Standard Time, covering topics from local, national, and everything in between. It may not be what you expect to hear, but we will definitely give you what you need to know. That's The Forum. There's liberal news, there's conservative news, and then there's the truth. Join us for the truth. Good morning, welcome to the program. Today is Tuesday, September 29th, 2020, and I'm sure you're all excited for the first presidential debate, which I'm hoping you plan to watch, if not for the pure theater of it. You know, Joe Biden is a much more experienced debater, but Joe Biden does not have the experience debating somebody like Donald Trump. And I'd imagine through Joe Biden's debate prep, he has probably studied old tapes of himself. He probably took a look at the debates from 2016 where Joe Biden, or Hillary Clinton rather, was debating Donald Trump. And maybe he takes some clues from how you handle someone who's going to be wildly unpredictable, and not just unpredictable in what Trump is going to say, unpredictable in that you don't know what kind of theatrics are going to go along with the debate. If you recall it, I believe the last debate in 2016 against Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, some of Bill Clinton's accusers were sitting right there in the front row, used as a diversion or a distraction. It was supposed to be a distraction for Hillary Clinton, but Hillary Clinton, as you all know, has got ice water running through her veins. So there's that part of it, not knowing what Trump is going to do. He has made the headlines every single day of his presidency, but not like this. The bravado and the bluster of his billionaire status has been completely exposed, that he is none of the above. And while some people are not shocked by the revelation of Donald Trump's taxes in 10 of the last 15 years, he's paid nothing and only paid $750, I believe, 2 of the years that he has been president. To put that in context, he paid Stormy Daniels about $130,000 more than he has paid the U.S. government. But the larger issue is, and I don't know if the Biden campaign can really beat this drum because there isn't a lot of time left. It's too hard to try and change direction Because if you follow that trajectory in wanting to beat Donald Trump through traditional campaign means, you're going to be changing direction every single day. And there's just no time for that. But what I saw as the most damning issue, and of course we had an idea that Trump was hiding something in his taxes, because if he was this, multi-billionaire, he would want to flaunt how much money he pays in taxes, wouldn't he? Because he would say something like, "Oh, my taxes alone funds the whole Department of Education," or "Oh, my taxes alone, funds the entire budget for the Department of Energy." He would brag. He would use that to his advantage, and because he did not do that, he did not brag about how much he pays in federal taxes, there had to have been something amiss. It isn't always about what Donald Trump says. It's about what he doesn't say. It's about what he omits. And that's what you got to pay attention to with somebody like him. But I'm sure you guys know full well how to pay attention to Donald Trump. The biggest overshadowing issue of him not paying taxes, and people are getting off into, oh, the federal taxes fund the military, and Donald Trump says he wants a strong military and he supports the troop. Nobody's really getting into that because so few Americans are either in the military or have family members that are in the military. It's like 1% or less. And so that's not a hard-hitting issue. What I see personally, the biggest, scenario surrounding Donald Trump's taxes is, we know that there's something like $300 million in loans that are going to become due within the next year, if not the next 2 years. That's an awful lot of money. There's no real verification of his income, that any of his golf courses or any of his resorts are making money. It also could be this real slick and tricky kind of accounting to where you might actually be making profit and taking profit from his various businesses, and he is considering them a loss. Or if he's buying real estate that's underwater and he's using the depreciation on that real estate or on his other assets to show that he actually is not making money. So if the assets that he is acquiring are worth less than the profit that he is making, he can show a loss. I mean, there's a whole bunch of different tricky things that he can do. And I'd imagine he has accountants that can help him navigate those very complicated waters. But if we don't know who he owes the money to, and Nancy Pelosi brought this up yesterday in the press conference, this is a matter of national security. And that is what the biggest issue is. It isn't the fact that he isn't paying. It isn't the fact that he may owe millions and millions of dollars. I mean, all of that is well and good, and it's a part of the story. But if we don't know who he owes the money to, because we're talking about dollar amounts to where you may exceed certain banks' capacities to lend. And we do know that several banks have denied his applications before. The Deutsche Bank is just one example. They do not do business with Donald Trump, and they've got various reasons. And those reasons, I believe, have been subpoenaed, but we'll never see them. But the big issue is just, you got to explore what ifs because of where we are in this country right now. Every what if is conceivable and is possible. One of those what ifs is, let's just say Donald Trump owes the Russian Federation, because we do know, and there's evidence, that Donald Trump tried to build a Trump Plaza or a Trump Tower in Moscow. Of course, that deal did not go through. But we don't know what the loans were. We don't know what the financial deals were between Donald Trump and just that one country. It could be other countries that could be considered enemies of the state. We know that there's a really weird and unusual cozy relationship with the Prince of Saudi Arabia. He was responsible for murdering a journalist who was working for the Washington Post. And Donald Trump essentially said nothing about that. So there's all of these other wealthy, dictatorial, fascist leaders that Donald Trump very well could have business dealings with and business interests with. That would not be far-fetched. As the businessman he says that he is, and it's not just national, it's not just here in the United States, Trump Brands is an international brand. So I would not be shocked with the wealth that he purports to have and the access that he has to other people in other countries. He could have considered or entered into the contract or the beginning stages of making a deal with other leaders of other nations. Some of those nations, knowing what Donald Trump's status is here in the United States, especially on the heels of him winning the presidency in 2016, would very easily and gladly and willingly lend him money lend the Trump organization money because they know that Donald Trump eventually would be backed, not just by his business assets, whatever those are, because he inflates those on paper, but Donald Trump would be a good business risk because if he became president, which he did, he would be backed by the US government. That's right, you and me. And other countries could very easily find a way to lend him money from their treasuries for future business dealings, or better yet, access to the United States. That's the story. That's the issue, ladies and gentlemen. If he is financially in bed with a nation that is an enemy of the state, and in return for the debt he may owe them, you can say Saudi Arabia, you can say Russia, you just pick the country. He could give them US property, military equipment. He could exchange secrets for the money that he may owe these countries. That by no means is far-fetched. Now, there's no evidence to back up my claim, but that's not crazy. If they know these other leaders that may want to do business with Donald Trump, or they just might want to get closer to the United States, they would lend him money. That's not an outrageous claim, I don't think. And if Saudi Arabia or Russia lent Donald Trump, I don't know, $500 million, at some point, they know that they would get some return on their investment. And they may not get their entire principal back. Maybe they get some of it back, but maybe they get information, proprietary information from the United States. And I say that because he has shown an incredible willingness to sacrifice American institutions. And when it comes to money, when it comes to having the power of the US Treasury, this whole thing with Donald Trump being under audit, one of the reasons why he needed to become president is because he gets to appoint the director of the IRS. That is an employee of his. Stephen Mnuchin, the Treasury Secretary, works for Donald Trump. Do you realistically think that Donald Trump is under any obligation, moral or legal or otherwise, to pay taxes to the agency, to the organization in which he appointed the executive director? Come on, y'all. You know better than that. He's not going to pay the IRS when he appoints the director of the IRS. His only achievement as president, and there have not been many, is a tax cut for wealthy people like himself. That's what his only achievement is. And that makes sense, right? Because then ultimately, if he did have to pay taxes, he then would owe less because of that monumental tax cut. So will these questions come out during the debate? I highly doubt it. Joe Biden needs to prove some stuff because we're all on edge. Those of us who already have our minds made up, either for Trump or for Joe Biden, are going to have some questions about Joe Biden's performance. All Joe Biden has to do is stay in the ring and look competitive. Good morning, everybody on the YouTube. Alden, yeah, I had some technical difficulties. If I have technical difficulties initiating this broadcast, don't worry. Give me 5 minutes. And if it's more than 5 minutes, and I'll just go back to the old school way, which is on Facebook. But YouTube requires a series of steps, and if one step is not in order, oh, hell. Glad you guys could join us. Those of you who may be viewing from the Facebook link, you can go to youtube.com/theforum2com, theforum2com, and like and subscribe. Click on my face, because if you go to YouTube, you see my face and you click, and then all of a sudden you'll hear me talking. But I wouldn't be shocked if Donald Trump owed a tremendous amount of money to foreign governments that he is cozied up with. I just want you to take your own inventory and think about some of the unusual behaviors and some of the, this weird kind of sympathy he's had for these other nations and this unusual brotherhood he's had with dictators and this affection that he has expressed for them. They very well may have given him money because banks are not going to lend to Donald Trump anymore. When a series of his hotels were going bankrupt in the 1980s and the banks were confiscating his properties, they had a very tough decision to make. And ultimately, even though Donald Trump had lost their properties, there's a lot of stuff that people don't know. And not that I would encourage you to waste any of your precious, valuable time watching documentaries about Donald Trump, but it'll really help you understand who he is, which will give you a better sense of what he might do. Because he's very consistent. And once you figure out the Rubik's Cube of what Donald Trump's personality is, what he says is not going to bother you as much. And I still have to deal with so many folks that they hear him and they get angry and they get mad. Once you understand who he is and how he operates, he's not going to make you mad anymore. Now, you can be disgusted at what he is doing to the country, but to an extent, he is a part of what this country is. The element that still supports him is very real in America. It exists. So if we have a representation of that, this sinister, evil, kind of bigoted, racist hatred with the disrespect for the Constitution, like they have a very myopic view of everything, of culture, of religion, of diversity, is their way or the highway. And we want to dismiss those people like they're not real and like they don't exist. We can't, because that is how that same bigotry is able to fester. And it's why we can't make meaningful progress on anything, because we have a cohort of people that it's easier for us to ignore. We can't ignore them. And if Donald Trump being president for a term, and oh God, I hope it's only a single term, if that gets us to realize that there are elements amongst us in this country that we have to deal with and can no longer ignore, then this is exactly what we needed. I remember as a little kid having to take cough medicine. It's disgusting, but you got to take it. It's good for you. Stop that cough. America has a cough. Bad cough. America has coronavirus, actually. That's the... Oh, you guys like my Cosby sweater? You like that? I guess I probably shouldn't say Cosby sweater because he's in prison. You guys forget about Bill Cosby? Bill Cosby is watching all of this unfold from a jail cell. Anyway, so I got some things I want to talk about. I do want to talk about the lead up to the debate and where people's expectations are. All Joe Biden has to do is hold his own until the real main event, which is a week from tomorrow, which is when Mike Pence and Kamala Harris debate. If Joe Biden can come out even with Trump, and I don't know how you score these things. I don't know how you measure this. No idea. But the real knockout punch is going to be Kamala Harris litigating Mike Pence. And that's going to be a spectacle. So that'll be, all Joe Biden has to do is maintain some kind of a lead, maybe get a slight advantage in the polls. He's doing very well in the polls, even though the margin of error doesn't really give us an accurate picture. If the election were today, Joe Biden would be doing okay. Oh, also, I got to let you guys know, tomorrow we have Milwaukee Common Council President Chevy Johnson. He's going to join the broadcast and give us his sentiments on filling out the census and the drop boxes that we have around the city and all the different ways to vote. So looking forward to speaking with him. That's tomorrow, Common Council President Chevy Johnson. Then on Thursday, we have candidate for the Wisconsin State Assembly, Dora Drake, running as a Democrat. Dora Drake has a Republican opponent in the 11th Assembly District in Milwaukee, which encompasses the north and northwest sides of the city. And her opponent is a Donald Trump supporter, an avid Donald Trump supporter. So there's the battle of good and evil right here in our own backyard in the 11th Assembly District. That interview with Dora Drake is on Thursday. I want to talk about the 4 P's of politics. I think I might have entitled the broadcast this. Oh, I did. Trump's taxes, the debate, and the 4 P's of politics. It may help with the concepts of all of these things that are coming at us. And it's a lot of emotion, and people are they're angry. And I'm angry too. Angry that we didn't do more, angry that we didn't participate more, angry that we didn't find more credibility in Hillary Clinton. But I'm not blaming Trump for that. Trump has been very consistent. We just didn't know how his consistency would turn America completely upside down. America was already tilted. Like we weren't like blackout drunk, but we were buzzed to the point where we weren't really walking on a straight line anymore. Barack Obama had this country reasonably sober. Doesn't that make sense that Barack Obama was a sober leader that did the right thing? made the hard decisions, sacrificed himself politically and personally for the good of the nation. And some of the things that Barack Obama did, while they may have seemed unpopular at the time, are so durable that Donald Trump needs a third person on the Supreme Court to undo a law that was signed by Barack Obama. That's a lot of effort, but that shows not just the strength of the Affordable Care Act, the strength of the politics behind Barack Obama. If it takes a decade and 3 judges on the Supreme Court to even have a shot at dethroning the Affordable Care Act, because I want you guys to know it has nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do with your health care. It doesn't matter if you can't afford to go to the doctor or go to the hospital. It doesn't matter if you can't afford to get regular checkups and treatments. It doesn't matter if you can't afford your medication. None of that matters. It's about taking away the most durable thing that any modern president has done. In fact, the Affordable Care Act is like New Deal FDR stuff, once in 100-year type of policy. Once in 100-year pandemic, once in 100-year policy in the Affordable Care Act. I mean, that's what that is about. And Donald Trump needs to take that away. But a way in which we can, at least I do, but I don't think like everybody else. You guys know that. An elected official, especially at the highest levels, right? So US Senate, governors of states, not so much Congress, because there's a lot of them. I mean, relatively speaking, there's not a lot of them, but there's 435 members of the House of Representatives. But once you get to the highest levels of government, especially the presidency, there are these 4 things that they have that can ensure their election, their reelection, and also their legacies, the 4 Ps, I call them. And so when I'm involved in campaigns, I look at these 4 Ps and any candidates that we're working with, that we're helping, we see which of these 4 Ps they have, because if you have all 4, it's not a guarantee you're going to win your election, but you'd rather have all 4 of them than none of them. 2 is better than 1. 3 is good if you have all 4. It makes it a little bit easier. But getting elected, let me be clear about this, is no small feat. It's difficult. Even the paperwork you need to file is difficult because you can't make any mistakes, can't miss any dotted I's or have any uncrossed T's, because simple mistakes you make just on the paperwork sometimes are illegal. So it's not easy, but it shouldn't be easy, because if you want the responsibility and the steadfast privilege of representing people, you need to have a very strict standard to be admitted into that club. The first P is going to be policy. If you're a candidate running for office, or if you're already elected, the policies that you support, the bills, the proposals, the budgets need to be in line with where at least 51% of the people are. So you need to have a policy agenda that speaks to better than half, not just better than half of the people, better than half of the voters. People and voters are different. Let me say that again. People make a lot of noise. People complain about everything. People are generally unhappy all of the time. They don't necessarily vote. There's a difference. But if you have the policy ideas that can move 51% or more of the voters, that's the first P that you will need. The other one is party. I know that you guys think that we have more than 2 parties. God bless you, but we really don't. Some years, one party versus the other is just better suited to the times. You have these wave years. Remember the blue wave, when it's a Democratic wave year and the Democrats are going to win all the elections. Sometimes if you just have a D in front of your name on that ballot, or if you're listed under the Democratic column, you have a sizable advantage, just because some years, some parties are hotter than the others. Democrats were hot in 2018. I don't know what the hell the Democrats are in 2020. So if you have the party, but then also with that is the politics. If you have a lot of stored favors, if you've done many, many things for many, many people, and you've been a part of nonprofit groups and organizations that are involved in community, that helps as well. But that's also a part of the politics, because people that know you, that may know your reputation, that can vouch for you, can also help you in your election campaign. Not saying that Donald Trump really had that, but he had the politics of the Republican Party. The Republicans were very much galvanized and on, one accord when it came to they didn't like Barack Obama. That is why you saw so many Republicans running for the nomination in 2016. Very few people thought that Donald Trump would make it out of that nominating process. Very few people. But he did. So the Republicans were united in that. So the party can also be very, very beneficial. And also, they're a tremendous source of money. You can give an unlimited amount of money to your state party. And when I say an unlimited amount of money, you can only give $2,700 to a presidential candidate, but you can give $27 million to the state party. Go figure. So the second P is party. The third one, which I guess could be subject for debate, but arguably one of the most important things in trying to conceptualize or decipher who runs for office and who wins and who becomes successful, who runs for office and who loses. And it's this innate characteristic. I'm going to say it's genetic. Some people got it, some people don't. It's personality. If you have a personality, a particular pedigree of your personality, people will just gravitate towards you. Will they not? A couple examples would be Bill Clinton had a personality. I met Bill Clinton in 2006. He came to Wisconsin for a campaign event to support Herb Kohl, who was running for his last term in the U.S. Senate, Congresswoman Gwen Moore, and the re-election of then Governor Jim Doyle. And I was sitting on the risers on the stage behind the president. In fact, it was myself and my buddy Chris Martin. If you're watching Bill Clinton speak at the Milwaukee Theater back in 2006, and you saw the television video of him speaking, you saw Chris Martin over his left shoulder and Old Sherwin Hughes was over Bill Clinton's right shoulder. But what Bill Clinton did is he made sure to meet and shake hands with everyone who were standing on the risers behind him. And he's just a dynamic man. He's one thing, and he's lost some of it now because he's old. I shouldn't say that. No, he's old. He's not the whippersnapper he used to be. But there's a dynamism about his personality that when you meet him, you know. And he was able to transmit that through every crowd at every event that he went to. Bill Clinton was a rock star for the Democrats, not because his policies were stellar as we're dealing with the fallout, especially from the 1994 crime bill, but he had this particular type of personality. And the other contrast is, I think when we hear Clinton, of course you think Bill Clinton because he was president for 2 terms, but Hillary Clinton has got a different personality. Some of that could be misogyny, some of that could be just how we compare women leaders to men leaders, and we need to stop doing that. But the personality and charisma of Bill Clinton helped him. Bill Clinton got impeached and it didn't matter. And I shouldn't say that it doesn't matter, but it didn't slow him down from campaigning for other candidates. People weren't afraid of Bill Clinton, even after the impeachment, even after he left office. People still wanted Bill Clinton to come to their campaign events and help them with their election campaigns because he had personality. Barack Obama had it too. Barack Obama was just unfettered cool, sometimes too damn cool. I wanted Barack to get real mad sometimes and like pound his fist on the podium, but he never did that. Barack Obama was a monotone, calming figure that expressed a deep love for the people in this nation and was president for those that loved him and disliked him alike. He had personality. He had a level of charisma. Trump has charisma too. It's different. It's bold. It's brash. It's in your face. It speaks loudly on behalf of those that have such bigoted views that they would lose their jobs, wouldn't they? If Donald Trump supporters, when they go to work, wherever they work, I don't know if they work or not, if they expressed Donald Trump sentiments at their jobs, they get fired. They'd be in HR, the office of HR right away. There'd be lawsuits against them. So Trump's loud, hyper, disgusting rhetoric speaks on behalf of those that are silenced by political correctness. It is that personality that they are gravitated toward. And it's not his policies, it's not what he's going to be doing for people. It's none of that. Some of that is just his bravado, because those that feel trapped and caged in, they can't express themselves because of the political correctness that exists in America. And I would argue that political correctness can be damaging, because if it keeps people's true feelings and emotions bottled in, at some point those emotions are going to spill over. Good morning, everybody. Bourbon 952000 says, keep in mind, no one was in the room with all those meetings with Putin. You're right, Bourbon. Those were financial deals. Those were financial deals that implicated the United States Treasury, because we're a very wealthy nation. Some of our wealth comes from gold reserves. Some of our wealth comes from taxes that are paid into the Treasury. But here's the other thing that we don't discuss very much. I've discussed it, but then people got mad at me when I discussed it. It's a reason why your student loans are not going to get forgiven, because let's just say there's $1 trillion of federal student loan debt that's out there in the country, which there probably is. It's probably a fair number, $1 trillion. The United States counts that as a part of its wealth. So the money that we owe the Department of Education for the money that we borrowed and pay interest on so we can get our education is a part of the United States assets. So forgiving student loans in America, which I'd imagine would be a very popular proposal with 30% of the people. And earlier I said you need policies that move 51% of the voters. Student loans, 30% of the people, 70% of the people in this country did not go to college. Doesn't mean they're not intelligent, doesn't mean that they're not wonderful in their own right, doesn't mean that they aren't incredibly skilled at their trades. They just didn't go to college. They don't have student loan debt. And so if you talk about forgiving student loan debt, 70% of the people are going to want something in return, because if they don't have student loan debt and the person next door has $100,000 in student loan debt and the person next door gets their $100,000 forgiven, but the person who didn't have student loan debt has got a $100,000 mortgage, that's a problem. That's Civil War stuff. Can't do that. The United States is not in a position, especially when people like Donald Trump don't pay taxes, not in a position to absolve $1 trillion worth of our assets in forgiving student loan debt for 30% of the people. It's essentially a non-starter. Now, the federal government can have different proposals where if you work in a public school for 5 years and you work in disadvantaged neighborhoods, they can forgive your loans. They can do stuff like that. But to outright just wipe them off the books, hell no. Won't do it. Sarah Laguerre, good morning, Sarah. She says, I'm not mad at Trump anymore. I'm mad at the people that vote for him. Touche. Gail Williams says, good morning to everybody. Y'all like the sweater, huh? You like it? Thank you. It's got a zipper. Ronald Gergen, good morning, sir. Alden Higgins, almost like Jim Jones followers. I never really liked the analogy, because people like Jim Jones and then another one, Adolf Hitler, those are very specific figures in world history. But there's a commonality toward a kind of populism, to where there is a national sorrow, where there are things that are amiss. Something is not there. It could be money, it could be opportunity, it could be increased competition that people may feel from other people coming from other countries. It's this combination of things. Economic insecurity is always a big one. And when you have this mass discontent in a society, and America breeds mass discontent. As an African American in this nation, don't be shocked that there's a mass discontent. And those people that don't feel our mass discontent are like, you should be happy to be in America. This is the wonderfulest country ever. It's the wonderfulest country, because they don't understand the mass discontent that other cultures can feel from being in America. Because the duplicity in that, when somebody tells you this is the best country ever and the most freedoms and the most liberty, you can do whatever you want, American dream, something, 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 and then you can't achieve it. Because as good as you are, as articulate as you are, as smart as you are, as many college degrees as you have, as many letters you have behind your name, if someone can discount you and discount your character because of the color of your skin, that can breed mass discontent. And those that have this mass discontent can easily be manipulated by people that are speaking to the heart of that discontent. Donald Trump supporters they embrace different parts of the mass discontent. Some of them hate Democrats. Some of them hate black people. Some of them hate the fact that they can't afford their health insurance, they're unemployed, they lost their factory job, and there's a lot of immigrants that are coming to their community. If that is you, and that's a lot of people in this country, there's a lot of people that cannot deal with the challenges that they face because they don't have enough money, because they've got economic insecurity. All of these things have been made worse by the coronavirus pandemic. In fact, I'm surprised Donald Trump didn't say the coronavirus came from Mexico. That would have fit better into his theme. Now, we know that it didn't. The coronavirus we have in the United States came from Europe, came from white people. Go figure. But that mass discontent, some of them hate, Trump supporters hate Democrats. Some of them hate black people. Some of them hate all of the above. Some of them hate their current situation where they've got a child addicted to heroin and dealing with all of that. Trump speaks to all of them. Trump speaks to farmers. Farmers are not, so dairy farmers, I know there's all this sympathy for dairy farmers because they have to dump milk and they had all this, remember they made all the cheese? Maybe you don't remember that. Maybe I'm a weird person. I remember that. So cheese lasts longer than milk. So what farmers were doing, because they were overproducing dairy, they were milking the hell out of their cows and they buy more cows and they had so many cows and so much milk, preparing for all of the demand that's supposed to exist for dairy products. And so because cheese lasts longer, they were making a lot of cheese because milk can only survive for, I don't know, milk goes bad. I'm not an expert on these things. I just remember stuff. And so they're making all this cheese and nobody's buying it. Now the farmers they're losing. They're going bankrupt. And a lot of it is corporate farming, because if you have a family farm, you can't compete. You can't compete with the assets of larger corporate farms that can outproduce you, and corporate farms that can invest billions of dollars in technology and genetically modifying the plants and the vegetables that we eat. Family farms can't do that. They try, but they can't compete. And with the overarching power of corporate farms, they put smaller farms out of business. Just like when Walmart comes into your town, some of the smaller mom and pop stores go out of business because they just can't compete. And when you deal with sheer volume, especially of agriculture, the prices drop. If farmers are not getting a certain dollar amount per bushel of corn, they can't sustain their farm. They can't pay the interest on some of the loans to get the modernized equipment, et cetera, et cetera. And so what these large corporate farms do is they buy up the smaller farms so the corporate farms can expand their empire. And it's such an incredible twist of irony because the goddamn land was stolen from Native Americans anyway. That being said, dairy farmers in the state of Wisconsin who are in really bad shape. It's not just, the corporate farming paradigm is one part, but the other part is people ain't eating dairy like that anymore. I stopped eating dairy in January. I had some cheese, not a lot, but I used to buy a gallon of milk a week, and I can't tell you, probably $20 worth of cheese every single week up until December of last year. I've literally not spent thousands of dollars on dairy, and I'm just one person. And I'm not the only one. As time goes on, dietary needs change and what people eat and what they consume change. That is probably hurting dairy farmers more than anything else. Third P in politics is personality. Donald Trump has it, a personality that fits for the time. Barack Obama had the personality. Joe Biden, I don't know. I'm used to Joe Biden. You ever go to a cookout? Remember when we had cookouts with people? Now you just have to have cardboard cutouts of all of your relatives. What was the movie when Tom Hanks had the volleyball? Wilson, remember his volleyball in the movie? What was the movie called? Now people just have volleyballs with faces on them because you can't be around people. Some people you see at the cookout, you're happy to see them. You go over and give them a hug. Go talk to them, ask them how they're doing, how the kids are doing. Some people at the cookout. And the other people you see at the cookout, you don't fool with them. Like you don't go talk to those people because you don't like them so very much. But then there's people at the cookout, you wave to them from a distance because they're always there. They're a familiar face at the cookout. Joe is the familiar face at the cookout. He's always there. He's got a Miller Lite in his hand. Hey, Joe. Hey, Sherwin. Hey, and that's all you. And if you do go to a cookout and Joe isn't there, you notice. It doesn't end the cookout, but you notice he isn't there because he's always there. Joe Biden is just there. Douglas Dickerson, good morning to you. Daniel Yehuda, Castaway was the movie. Thank you very much. So now our cookouts are just a bunch of painted volleyballs named Wilson. The fourth P in politics, per the title of this broadcast, is simply people. You got to have good people around you. You got to have good advisors. You got to have a good campaign team. You got to have a good staff. But then the other part of the people is the electorate itself. When it comes down to it, all of the hoopla, all of the campaign promises, all of the policy ideas, all of the promises of friendlier budgets, all of that taxing the rich, all of those promises, if you don't get your voters to the polls, it doesn't matter. That's it. You say all of those things. You do all the things you do on the campaign trail to get one more person to vote for you, to get one more percentage point over 50%. That's it. You say lots of things. You spend lots of money. You hire consultants. You have creative advertising campaigns. People write your speeches. You hire people to keep your schedule. You have to go here to this coal mining town and talk to the coal miners. You have to go to California and talk about how you're going to extinguish the wildfires. You got to talk to people about climate change. You got to come to Wisconsin. You got to deal with Milwaukee, but then you got to go to outstate Wisconsin and deal with the dairy farmers. You're doing all of that. You're saying all of that, keeping these incredibly grueling schedules so you can get one more percentage point than your opponent. That's it. And sometimes candidates don't care how they look, how they act, and how they sound, because if they are speaking to a group of people that a lot of us don't know and don't recognize, the people that Donald Trump is speaking to, we don't really know. I take that back. I don't really know any of those people, because what this modern world of social media does is it enables you to create a space where everybody thinks just like you. We have a Facebook group on the Facebook called The Forum. Very few arguments, very few disagreements, or people will disagree but won't be disagreeable. People are not threatening to kill each other. They're not doxing each other and putting people's addresses on the internet. Not doing that, because it's a space in this unlimited world of the internet in which like people can get together, sometimes commiserate, sometimes share information, sometimes talk about community. Most of the time it's all of the above. But it was created for people that have a very similar political philosophy. There's a lot of diversity. There's all sorts of races and cultures and religions, which makes it very strong and makes it very, very important. But for the most part, these are folks that look through the same lens when they see the world. And I'm not going to pay any attention to, oh, Sherwin, you don't want people that'll disagree with you in the group. Nope, I don't. Let me tell you why. Because the people that disagree with me and disagree with us, they have their places on the internet too, where ain't nobody going to bother them. Because here's the thing. You're not going to change anybody's mind. Have any of you that are listening, and God bless all of you ever had your mind changed by a Trump supporter? Hey, did you wake up one day and you like Barack Obama, you're going to vote for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, you had a Joe Biden yard sign in your yard, which seemed to be very difficult to get. I think when your Joe Biden yard signs are getting stolen, guys, they're being stolen from other Biden supporters because they're just a very tough commodity to get. But has any Trump supporter ever made a point that was so poignant and hard hitting that you're like, oh snap, I'm gonna take my Joe Biden yard sign out of my yard and vote for Trump? Of course not. In fact, probably the other way around. I bet you there's more Democrats or Democratic leaners that have had this go round. I can't speak for 2016. 2016 was just Twilight Zone. This, I don't know what the hell you call this. This is Outer Limits as a 1950s television reference. It's just, I don't even know how to conceptualize the unpredictability of what 2016 was, because I think we just had a level of expectation, but now I would say either it came from a person, maybe a family member, because some of you guys have Trump. Some of you like live with Trump people. I would say I wouldn't, bet tremendous, odds on this, but more Democrats this go round have convinced former Trump voters and former Trump supporters to now vote for Democrats, and that's evident by Republicans for Biden. And people will have the yard signs. There's actual yard signs that I'm a Republican, I'm voting for Joe Biden. There's a number of commercials I'm sure you've seen, targeted ads where these individual people, I'm not sure how much good that does to see an individual person like admit they were wrong for voting for Trump in 2016 and now they're going to vote for Joe Biden. I have not seen this, and it doesn't mean it doesn't exist, because I'm using what is called a heuristic. It's I take just what I've seen and what I've experienced and apply it to the whole. Just because I haven't seen it doesn't mean it doesn't exist, but I'm going to use the example anyway. I haven't seen converted Biden supporters now we're going to vote for Trump. Like, I'm sure they exist, but there's not many of them. It seems to be the tide is going the other way. The current is flowing the other way. More Trump voters from 2016 are going to vote for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris in 2020. And I think all of that is well and good for Joe Biden, but if he fumbles the ball during tonight's debate, then he could go back to square one. This is from CBS News. When President Trump and Joe Biden meet on stage in Cleveland tonight, they arrive as two well-known entities. Mr. Trump, the incumbent president who shares his opinions on Twitter every day and in almost daily media appearances, and Biden, the Democratic nominee who has been in public life for decades. But Tuesday marks the first time they will tangle face to face as the nation watches. It almost sounds like the hyping up a boxing match. The first debate will answer a number of questions and set the tone for the next two, even as Americans have already begun casting their ballots ahead of November 3rd. Here's what to watch for in the first presidential debate of 2020. Number one, fact checking. Fact checkers are going to go nuts on Donald Trump. Mr. Trump's penchant for making false statements is well known, and how closely he hews to the truth will certainly be watched, though the debate's moderator, Fox News' Chris Wallace, does not plan to take this on. He does not view fact-checking as a part of his purview in moderating this debate, saying on Fox News Sunday that he plans to be as invisible as possible as he tries to get Mr. Trump and Biden to engage and focus on the key issues. He's going to have to, so Chris Wallace has got a tough job. I moderated a debate between John Chisholm, our Milwaukee County District Attorney, and Verona Swanigan, who challenged him in 2016. And that was like herding cats. And that's two respectable lawyers. Well, I guess that makes it tougher because lawyers just, they lawyer everything to death. Point of order, point of clarity. Sherwin, can I respond? Can I have a rebuttal? It's tough. They're not going to, you think Donald Trump is going to stop after 90 seconds? Chris Wallace, Mr. Trump, you'll have 90 seconds to respond, or however Chris Wallace sounds, probably like that. Trump is not going to honor the time schedule. It is going to be a mess. I just hope that Biden can keep up. Juan Pablo, good morning. He says, I will vote for Trump. AMA. Oh, God. Well, there you go, guys. You'd have to expect, like, we don't get much trolling. I shouldn't have said that because the trolls are. For those that may not know, I'm broadcasting live on YouTube. You may see it in other places, but we have a comment section if you want to chat. Please don't ask me what you need to do and how you need to sign up for you so you're able to live chat. You're gonna have to ask Alden Higgins about that because apparently it's difficult. But we got one. We got somebody that'll vote for Trump. Well, fair enough, Juan Pablo, even though I'm not sure if your profile is even real. I mean, listen, Donald Trump is going to get 60 million votes, give or take. He is. Now, getting 60 million votes, I mean, it's a lot. It's not going to be the majority of the popular vote. It means that there are 60 million people in this nation that have reformed their definition of what America is. And their definition of America doesn't exist. But it's hard to tell 60 million people that what they believe and what they hold as gospel is a fairy tale. If you tell a lie enough times, it's easier to believe it because it's the path of least resistance because you just accept it, you swallow it, you let the lie nurture you. You don't research it, you don't look for alternatives, you don't critically think about it. It's easier to believe it, and you can simply justify it by saying, well, the president said it, it must be true. President said the media is fake, it must be true. Media wasn't fake before Donald Trump said it, but now all of a sudden, because Trump says it, then it must be true. It's much easier, and I get it. When people are hurting and they don't really have a bright outlook toward the future and they've got these economic woes and they see their nation changing around them, nobody likes change. We say that we do. We accept it. Certain people can deal with it. Well, I remember when I was in college, 7,000 years ago, I would sit in the same seat. Every class, I had my seat. Wasn't anything particular about that seat. It was the right mix of close enough to where I could see and pay attention, but then also close enough to the door to where if I needed to make a quick escape, I could, but also in the vicinity of some girl I probably had a crush on. My most boring classes when I was in college, my motivation for going was probably a girl. I went, but if I got to class, and most days I didn't want to go because it was cold. Seemed like my college years, it was always winter, but whatever. I would sit in the same seat. And if somebody was in my seat, it's not like they knew my name wasn't on the seat. Really, anybody sits anywhere. The seats were not assigned, but it would ruin like that hour of class for me because we're territorial. We're even territorial in our thoughts and in our sentiments. We don't like to be told that we're wrong. We have a routine and we follow it because so many things in the world are unpredictable. When your phone rings, it was probably spam, but you don't know who's on the other end of that phone, even though we have caller ID. You don't know. We don't want to be disturbed from our square. And 60 million people want to believe in a fantasy fallacy of America that props certain people up as better and more important. And we know that that's false because those, in fact, are the most vulnerable people in the country. Those that think they're better than, that they get to go first, that they have some kind of ordained authority in this nation. They have been told that. It isn't true, but they believe it. That's the dangerous thing about a lie, because all you need is somebody to believe it, and then all of a sudden it resembles the truth. Or as Kellyanne Conway said, and I'm glad she's no longer in the administration, she said there's facts and then there's alternative facts. I have never in my life heard of those words put together ever for any reason, either seriously or facetiously or with satire. There's facts and we have alternative facts. 60 million people, to a lesser or greater degree, believe in alternative facts. They believe that Black Lives Matter is some kind of a terrorist organization, but the KKK and Confederate monuments is a part of our history. They believe that Donald Trump befriending dictators that have nuclear weapons pointed at the United States. Where do you think North Korea is aiming its nuclear weapons? Well, like some of them at South Korea. Like South Korea, they're in trouble first, but then the rest are aimed at us. The Soviet Union still has nuclear weapons. They're still a nuclear superpower and their weapons are aimed at us. But instead of some of those Donald Trump supporters, like the one that has joined us in the group, instead of them seeing that as a threat to national security and the money that Donald Trump may have borrowed from foreign governments that are hostile to the United States, they see that as, oh, he's making friends with our allies and he's showing how strong he is. It's amazing. For every truth that exists, there is an alternative to it. And for every alternative truth, there is a follower that is willing to vote for it. And that's essentially where we're at. What else to watch for in tonight's debate? Will Trump bring up Hunter Biden, and will Joe Biden push back? Donald Trump loves to bring up Biden's son, Hunter, and his involvement with Ukrainian company Burisma in campaign rallies and tweets, but Mr. Trump has been less likely to bring up such personal attacks when that person or his or her family is in his presence. But he could bring up the former vice president's son and claim Hunter Biden was given plum jobs and opportunities because of his father's influence. I don't know if Trump has that leg to stand on anymore, because the thing about the $750 that Trump paid in taxes for 2 years of the last, 15, is it's a very memorable number. Like, I'm waiting for the bumper stickers and the t-shirts that say 750 on them. And if Joe Biden had some kind of influence, whether he did or whether he didn't, it pales in comparison to what Trump has hired his whole family. You understand that? His son-in-law, his daughter, he's got kids. I don't even know. There's Tiffany, who doesn't really like him, doesn't say much about him, but then she was at the Republican convention, and he hires his children. So if Joe Biden had some kind of influence to get Hunter Biden a little money, put a little money in his pocket, give him a little job, put him on a corporate board, maybe it happened. We don't like that kind of stuff. But you understand that Donald Trump has hired his whole family and is paying his whole family with a combination of government salary and untaxed profits from a variety of business interests that we don't even know anything about. 2016, I did a radio show. I don't even know what radio station I was at in 2016. I can't remember one of them. And there was a schematic and a flow chart, and it was a mess. And it was and I read all of them. Wish I could find that podcast. I'd love to play it, but you guys would be bored to pieces. And it was 300 businesses, LLCs, INCs, DBAs, which are doing business as contractors, subcontractors, real estate firms, real estate development firms, their consultants, their contractors. There were 300 businesses in in the purview of the Trump empire. 300. Some of which are just designed to be tax shelters. Some of which are just designed so they can take on debt and take on loss, and then Donald Trump can claim them on his bottom line and not pay taxes. I also remember him saying, and maybe you guys remember this too, I'm going to step away from all my businesses. I'm not going to do that no more. My sons are going to. His sons are in the White House. So even if Trump stepped away, it doesn't matter, because the people that are still running his businesses are 3 inches away from him at all times. Alden, should I call you Alden, or do I call you your YouTube name? Do you want to have a different name on YouTube? Fair enough if you do. Mr. Higgins says in the chat, I believe Biden will be fine. Bar not set high, but Biden will be fine. Daniel Yehuda says, since Trump wants to bring up drug tests, Trump needs to give his son Trump Jr. a drug test. Do you see how lit up he was at the RNC? Oh, Republicans love coke. They do. Democrats smoke weed. Well, Republicans smoke weed too. Just they put coke in it. I can only say that because I'm not going to get much blowback, because there's not many Republicans in here, and the ones that are probably doing coke. I mean, what do you want me to do? That's their drug of choice. It's very bad for you. Any drug that you do that makes you forget to eat food, probably not good for you. How will Donald Trump defend his tax records? Getting back to the story of what to look for at tonight's debate. And I want you guys to watch it because we're going to discuss it. Tomorrow morning, we're going to have a conversation with Milwaukee Common Council President Chevy Johnson. He's going to start the program with me tomorrow, and then we're going to get right into the debate. So watch it. It's an hour and a half long. You may go nuts. You might get bored. No, you won't get bored. It's going to be exciting, maybe. On Sunday, the New York Times published a massive report detailing years of Mr. Trump's tax returns just 2 days before the debate. So far, the president has decried the story as both fake news and an illegal leak of documents, statements that contradict each other. Chris Wallace can be expected to press Mr. Trump on some of the details that emerged, including the reporting that though his properties had millions in revenues, the president paid just $750 in taxes in 2016 and 2017, claiming heavy losses in his businesses. Wallace may also ask about reporting on the $100 million mortgage on Trump Tower that will come due in 2022. Oh, that was what I was referring to earlier. There's a personal loan or some loan that's coming due. And you got to keep in mind, guys, as long as Donald Trump is the chief executive of the United States, he has access to a tremendous amount of money, maybe not cash directly, but if there's a foreign nation, this is as an example, and I only say this because it makes sense. And if I was president, which I'm not, and if I was Donald Trump, which I'm really not, I would do this. That's why he needs to remain president. If a foreign nation decides to take on some of Donald Trump's debt, he signs over the deed and the leases or whatever to another nation. And that nation can say, okay, so we'll take on this property. We'll hire all of your people to manage it and to run it. You know, we won't have actual people from our country in the building or in the front office of the building. You take care of all that. We'll pay all the people. But in exchange, here's what we want from the United States. Here's the military equipment that we want. Here are some additional financial deals and contracts that we want. We want you to lift sanctions. Russia could take on $100 million worth of Trump's debt in exchange for lifting the sanctions, because when the sanctions are slapped on Russia, which Barack Obama did and Donald Trump immediately lifted, in fact, probably one of Donald Trump's first acts as president was to lift sanctions on the nation that influenced social media and helped Donald Trump get elected. What do I need to do to connect more dots? If Trump knows that he's in debt, because if there's anything that makes him lose sleep, it's the fact that he isn't the billionaire he says he is. It's all a lie. People believed it, so you can get a little bit of sleep behind that, but it's all a lie. And one day people are going to find out. And so if there is a nation that can help him, that can buy up some of this debt, and all he has to do is, I don't know, sell out the American people and our democracy and maybe give a little money and lift some sanctions, why wouldn't he do it? That's the simplest explanation. And why when Donald Trump had secret meetings with Vladimir Putin, Donald Trump had no staff with him, but Vladimir Putin had his staff and his camera crews and his translators all with him. The deal was Trump will help you get elected. There's an influence machine that we have here in Russia because it's cyber warfare and we have essentially perfected it. We'll help you get elected. And when we do that, you're going to owe us, because that's a part of presidential politics too. When Sam Giancana and the Chicago mob outfit tied the hands of union members and union bosses and said that if your unions don't vote for Kennedy, we are going to force a strike. And then what Kennedy did when he got elected, instead of being soft on organized crime and Sam Giancana, John Kennedy hired his brother Bobby Kennedy to go after organized crime. And then we know what happened to JFK after that. Then we know what happened to the second JFK after that. RFK, rather. There's a deal that was made in which the debt that Donald Trump has on a variety of properties would be absolved by Russia. This is as an example. And I don't have any evidence of this, but it just makes sense because there's no rocket science in anything this man does. Because if you followed anything about Donald Trump's life, and during the quarantine, I've watched a lot of TV. And I saw some documentaries on Trump and his family and all this other stuff. Donald Trump is living in a world in which he is still trying to please his dead father. That is not a good position to be in. Donald Trump's father gave him $400 million and Trump essentially squandered it and lost it. And that has to weigh heavy on him because I think that Trump had a level of respect for his dad. As racist as his father was, Trump is probably racist because his dad was. And if you make a deal with a foreign nation and all you have to do is use your power of the presidency, Trump didn't bend over backwards to lift sanctions on Russia. He told the Republicans in Congress to do so. And that was it. Because he was what the Republicans always wanted, someone that can put justices on the bench that will overturn Roe versus Wade. That's it, guys. That's essentially the whole game plan. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you to the one Trump person that joined the chat. The debate begins at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. It is an hour and a half long, and this is the first one between Donald Trump and Joe Biden, and we're going to have a recap on tomorrow's broadcast. Also, Common Council President Chevy Johnson joins me tomorrow. On Thursday, Dora Drake, candidate for the 11th Assembly District in Milwaukee, will be on with me as well. All right, guys, have yourselves a good, productive day, and I'll see you tomorrow morning.